what I was doing is manifest, but it's like a million times more dry.
Hi, everyone.
It's like,
Hello.
It's like,
Before I officially call the meeting to order, I just wanted to take a moment to check in and run through what's going to be on our agenda. We have Kim ready in the booth from BevCam. Thank you, making sure people can join us online and on cable. Thank you for that, Kim. So tonight, we have an agenda that has some regular business. We also have the happy opportunity of being able to recognize some of our local Eagle Scouts. We'll get to that right off the bat. And we have 2 citizen speakers, a public hearing, and then some regular business with a brief break for committee work, and then we'll be back. So with that, I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Beverly City Council, Monday, September 19th, 2022, 7 o'clock p.m. Ms. Kent, will you please call the roll?
Bowen? Here. Crowley?
Here.
Feldman?
here,
Hausman? Rand?
here,
Rotundo?
Here.
St. Hilaire?
Here.
Sweeney?
Here.
And Flowers.
Here. Councilor Rand, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you very much, Councilor Rand. And I should mention that Councilor Hausman is not here with us this evening. He is in Michigan with family. He has a family member who is sick. And so Councilor Hausman, we're definitely thinking of him, and that's why he's not able to be here this evening. With that, we will go right to our resolutions. This is Order 234, and I will go to the podium. Call myself to the podium. So as I mentioned, we do have the happy occasion of being able to recognize some of our local Eagle Scouts here from troop number 49, right here in Beverly. And before I ask one of our Eagles to come up and join me so we can officially present his resolution, I did want to mention that this is exciting because there's actually a whole group of Scouts from troop 49 who have achieved the rank of Eagle, which is of course the highest honor that a Scout can earn in Scouting. And so many of them can't be here tonight in person because they are working or off at school. And so we'll look forward to having them here with us when they're home for a break or when they have an opportunity so that we can do an official resolution for them as we're going to do for Thomas, who's here with us tonight. But I did want to take a moment to mention their names and celebrate their accomplishments. And I know there are some family members here for some of the Scouts. And so if you are a family member, when I come to your Eagle, I absolutely invite you to stand up and be recognized as well. So first I want to mention that Mars Orfanos went to the Cove Elementary School, Briscoe Middle School, and was actually part of the last graduating class to attend Briscoe Middle School, and then graduated from Beverly High School in 2022. He's currently enrolled in Francis College of Engineering at UMass Lowell and earned his Eagle Scout rank on November 2nd, 2021. And his family mentioned to me that it took almost a year and a half for him to do that work because of the pandemic. And so I think it's important for us to remember that these Eagle Scouts not only completed the work and achieved the rank of Eagle, but also did it during a time that was tremendously different and difficult in many ways. And so I think that in many ways adds to the sense of accomplishment because of the resilience these Scouts have shown. Also, Harrison Skilling, and I know Harrison's family is here. I'll invite them to stand. Give them a round of applause. Harrison attended Hannah Elementary School, Briscoe Middle School, and Beverly High School. He graduated this past 2022, and he is now at Syracuse University studying electrical engineering. Harrison earned his Eagle badge on November 7th, 2020. And his Eagle project was for Hale Farm in Beverly, just right in our neighborhood here, which he designed and planned and organized a building project of 10 tables with benches for the farm to use for outside events. And certainly the farm, we can see lots of community events that have made great use of this Eagle project. And it also was such an amazing thing during the pandemic to be able to have those community events outside. So we congratulate Harrison and his family as well, and we look forward to having him back when he's here so we can honor him in person. I also wanted to mention some of the other Eagle Scouts in this group of Eagles who we'll look forward to honoring. One is Cale Deneen, who was a student at Essex North Shore and is now in the workforce, and Ryan Galucci, who is currently at college in the South and hard at work doing his academic studies. Also, we'll look forward to having Jude Miller come back with us soon. I found out from his Scoutmaster, who's here with us as well, David Siedzik, thank you for being here, that Jude just passed his board of review last month, and that's a huge accomplishment, and so we'll look forward to having Jude with us in the weeks to come. So before I bring Thomas up, I would invite us to give a round of applause for this entire group of Scouts. So now Thomas Beasley, I'm going to invite him to come up with us. Thomas, come on up. And I don't know if other members from your troop would like to come up as well, your Scoutmaster. So it's really an honor to have you here with us, Thomas, and I would like to read this resolution on behalf of the Beverly City Council to honor you and your achievement. This is a resolution in honor of Thomas Beasley upon his earning the rank of Eagle Scout, presented by the City Council of Beverly, Massachusetts, September 19th, 2022. Whereas Thomas Beasley has been an outstanding, active, and involved member of Beverly's Scout Troop 49. Whereas Thomas attended Cove Elementary School in Beverly for elementary school, Clark School in Rowley for middle school, and Beverly High School, and will be enrolling at the University of Vermont in the fall of 2023, following a gap year he elected to take to spend allowing him to do some volunteer work locally, as well as explore the world around him through some international travel. Whereas the rank of Eagle is the highest advancement rank in Scouting and requires Scouts to fulfill requirements in areas of leadership, service, and outdoor skills, all requirements that Thomas has met with poise, determination, and excellence. Whereas to earn the rank of Eagle, a Scout must demonstrate the many skills required to move through the ranks of Scouting on the path to Eagle: tenderfoot, second class, first class, star, and life. Whereas Thomas holds many beloved memories from his days as a Scout, including favorites drawn from his time at the Watutka Scout Camp. During his days at camp, he and other Scouts built new friendships, visited the trading post to buy snacks, and got to experience new things, not to mention enjoying themes and events the camp hosted for Scouts, like Thomas told me, Waffle Wednesday, where they could try their hand at rock climbing the wall and earn a free waffle if they successfully made it to the top. That sounds like a great event, I have to say. Whereas Thomas embodies the character, the dedication to service and community, and the leadership skills that come with moving through the ranks of Scouting, and that are the hallmarks of an Eagle Scout. Whereas Thomas developed and successfully led a group of volunteers to complete his Eagle Scout project supporting the New England Flying Squirrel Network, a citizen science project with the goal of researching and learning more about populations of flying squirrels across the New England area, to learn more about them and their impact on the environment. Thomas and his team of volunteers worked to build 37 flying squirrel boxes as part of the project and in the support of this citizen science work. Whereas Thomas went on to earn the rank of Eagle on May 26, 2022. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beverly does hereby commend Thomas Beasley for his excellence in community building, social and Scouting activities, and congratulates him on having earned the rank of Eagle Scout as a member of Beverly Troop 49, that the council wishes him all the best in his future pursuits and wishes him health, happiness, and continued success, and orders that the city clerk spread a copy of this resolution upon the city records. Congratulations. This is going to be
Thank you. I don't know if it.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Thomas. Thank you very much, David, for being here. And so, members of the council, I would entertain a motion to approve Order 234. This is our resolution for Eagle Scout Thomas Beasley.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That motion carries 8-0. And congratulations again, Thomas. And I do want to add a word, an additional word of congratulations to all of those Eagle Scouts. It's a tremendous honor and accomplishment, as we were just talking about, but for a troop to have so many Scouts achieving the rank of Eagle is, I think, quite outstanding. And so just congratulations to all those Scouts and to Troop 49 as well. So, councilors, I would entertain a motion to take a 5-minute recess to give our Eagle Scout and families a chance to speak with you, but also then you can leave if you would like, members of the Scout troop, although you are certainly welcome to stay after the recess. But I would entertain a motion for a 5-minute recess.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We're at recess for 5 minutes. And we're back. I'll call us back to order. And that brings us right to our citizen speakers. We have 2 tonight, and I'm going to invite them to come forward in the order that they're listed on our agenda. Although, as I just said to them, if they'd like to stand together and then speak one at a time, that's also fine. I'll start with Bridget Booth, who is first signed up as one of our citizen speakers. And Bridget, when you go to the podium, I know I just said your name, but if you could just restate your name and address for the record and for BevCam, that's helpful. And then you have 5 minutes or less for your portion, and then I'll call our next speaker.
So actually, Kaylee's gonna go first.
Okay. All right. So Kaylee Quintino, and I also gave away your name, but if you would restate your name and then give us your address for the record, and then Kaylee, you have up to 5 minutes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kaylee Quintino. I am the co-founder of Green Club at Beverly High School, and I live on 1205 Broughton Drive. Okay. So today I'm going to be talking about a summary report on how climate change affects extinction. Okay, so unless climate change is curbed, Earth's oceans could see a mass extinction of marine life unlike anything the planet has seen for millions of years. According to a new study from Justin Penn, a postdoctoral research associate in geosciences at Princeton, and Curtis Dutch, a professor of geosciences at Princeton. The study said that the climate-driven ocean warming and oxygen depletion would be the primary reasons for the potential mass extinctions. In addition, direct human impacts such as habitat destruction, overfishing, and coastal pollution also threaten marine species. The extinctions could occur in the next 100 to 300 years. By 2100, a high-emission scenario, extinction risks could rival all human threats in the oceans as they currently stand, including overfishing and marine pollution, among others. By 2300, these extinctions could rival those in the geological past, unless trends in greenhouse gas emissions are reversed. According to the study, under businesses as usual, global temperature increases marine ecosystems planet-wide and are likely to experience mass extinctions, potentially rivaling the size and severity of the end Permian extinction, the Great Dying, which occurred roughly 215 million years ago and led to the demise of more than 2/3 of marine animals. The news wasn't all bad, however. The study found that reversing greenhouse gas emissions could reduce the risk of extinction by more than 70%. So what does mass extinction really mean, and why do we care? A mass extinction is a short period of geological time in which a high percentage of biodiversity or distinct species, bacteria, fungi, plants, mammals, and vertebrates dies out. In this definition, it's important to note that in a geological time, a short period can span to like thousands or even millions of years. The planet has experienced 5 previous mass extinction events, the last one occurring 65.5 million years ago, which wiped out the dinosaurs from existence. Experts now believe we're in the midst of a 6th mass extinction. So what's causing the 6th mass extinction? Unlike previous extinctions, events caused by natural phenomena, this 6th mass extinction is driven by human activity. Primarily, though, the unsustainable use of land, water, and energy use, and, of course, climate change. It's evident that where and how food is produced is one of the biggest human-caused threats to species extinction and our ecosystems. To make matters worse, unsustainable food production and consumption are significant contributors to greenhouse gas emissions that are causing atmospheric temperatures to rise, wreaking havoc across the globe. The climate crisis is causing everything from severe droughts to more frequent and intense storms. It also exacerbates the challenges associated with food production that stress species while creating conditions that make their habitats inhospitable. Increased droughts and floods have made it more difficult to maintain crops and produce sufficient food in some regions. The intertwined relationships among the food system, climate change, and biodiversity loss are placing immense pressure on our planet. So, why should we even care about mass extinction? Species do not exist in isolation. They are interconnected. A single species interacts with many other species in specific ways that produce benefits overall to people, like clean air, clean water, and healthy soils for efficient food production. When one species goes extinct in our ecosystem, or its population numbers decline so significantly that it cannot sustain its important function, other species are also affected, impacting the way the ecosystem functions as a whole and the benefits it provides. and the potential for species extinction rises. Monitoring these trends is vital because they are a measure of overall ecosystem health. Serious declines in the populations of species are an indicator that the ecosystem is breaking down, warning a larger system failure. If we do not course correct, we will continue to lose life-sustaining biodiversity at an alarming rate. These losses will at best take decades to reverse, resulting in a planet less able to support current and future generations, such as us. So, what can we do to stop mass extinction? The Paris Agreement, we can ramp up our commitments to cutting carbon emissions under the Paris Agreement and limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. For our 30x30, our leaders can support the America the Beautiful initiative to conserve 30% of U.S. lands and waters by 2030. And by using Build Back Better, Congress can support a policy package that offers the largest ever federal investment in clean energy. And the United Nations Biodiversity Summit, U.S. leadership can play a critical role besides 195 other countries and agree to new ambitious global goals on biodiversity and how they can be financed and implemented. And lastly, the grassroots action. While the federal government can set high-level policies to conserve nature, businesses, communities, and individuals have a powerful role to play in shifting cooperative behavior with the consumer choices and demanding accountability from political leaders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kaylee. We appreciate you being here as one of our citizen speakers. And I know that you've already switched places now with Bridget. So Bridget, if you would begin with your name and address for the record, and then you have up to 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Bridget Booth, and I live at 30 Arlington Avenue. I'm also a co-founder of Green Club at Beverly High School. Today I'm going to be summarizing an article from Wired that goes over the psychology of getting people inspired to make climate change actions. One of the 5 urgent actions cited in the last article was grassroots action. Grassroots action requires behavioral change, and behavioral change is rooted in psychology. No single person can measure up to the influence that governments or fossil fuel companies have over climate change. But as a climate expert, Kimberly Nicholas, sustainability scientist at Lund University in Sweden, knows how important individual choices to drive or take a bus, to eat a beef burger or an Impossible Patty, to fly or stay home will prove in the fight to prevent catastrophe. It's not the start and the end of everything, she says, but it's absolutely necessary and essential. The challenge is to figure out how to mobilize people to make those choices. Human psychology can be a tricky beast, but also offers clues about how to encourage better decision-making. The August 18th article in Wired discusses 5 psychological approaches and challenges to shifting individual behavior. Number 1, focus on high-impact actions. Some psychological research has suggested that people may struggle to repeatedly practice self-control. Most people recognize the threat of human-caused climate change, but they tend to know less about what they can do to mitigate it. Recycling is a popular option, but avoiding just one round-trip flight is 8 times better for the planet than comprehensively recycling for a whole year. Though, of course, it is best to do both, it's far better to focus on one high-impact decision, like choosing not to fly. Researchers generally agree that people can make the most positive changes in 3 areas of their lives: transportation, including flying and driving, diet, including meat consumption and food waste, and household gas and energy use. Number 2, major life changes. Here, psychology offers another useful clue. When people are undergoing a major life change, new behaviors tend to stick a bit better. One study in the Journal of Environmental Psychology found that families who had just moved were more likely to make sustainable choices after an educational intervention than those who had not. These discontinuities, researchers think, disrupt old habits and make room for new ones. And moving isn't just the only important discontinuity. Starting a new job, getting married, or even experiencing an extreme weather event could all be opportunities for people building more sustainable habits. Number 3, cultural norms. Cultural norms are an even bigger barrier than habits, says Lorraine Whitmarsh, professor of environmental psychology at the University of Bath. Eating meat, for example, has an association with masculinity in many cultures, including in the US. Cars, too, can function as powerful symbols of status and maturity. A life disruption like moving isn't necessarily going to be enough to override those forces. Number 4, saw the co-benefits. Because climate change is a relatively slow process that has only intermittent, unpredictable effects on the daily lives of most Americans, it's hard to pin down just how choosing to skip 1 burger or 1,000 burgers will improve the lives of loved ones. So that is why it's important to focus on co-benefits, positive effects on one's health, finances, and community. For example, focusing on the cardiovascular benefits of avoiding BEAT or the reduced cost of filling up an electric vehicle might provide the final push that someone needs to make a sustainable change. And co-benefits make a lot of sense. People might reasonably feel more empowered to affect their own health than the health of the entire planet. Number 5, social networks are powerful. Individual change can also be far more powerful than most people realize when it spreads through social networks. Studies consistently show that social norms play a major role in whether or not people decide to make climate-friendly choices. When one person puts on a solar panel on their roof, for example, the odds of other people in their zip code installing solar panels noticeably increases. By making a climate-friendly choice, you aren't just reducing your own emissions, you are inspiring others to reduce theirs. And not just one drop in the bucket you contributed individually, Foley says. It's the other drops that follow you. Buying an electric vehicle makes the next one cheaper and may eventually make them more broadly accessible. Increased demand for meat-free options encourages restaurants to change their menus, so people who would never consider going fully vegan might try a plant-based meal. As individuals, we are all participants in a complex, densely linked system, and our decisions can propagate through that system in ways that exponentially increase their power. Systems change in interesting ways, often before we can see them, Foley says. Things happen very, very, very slowly, then all at once. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bridget, and thank you again, Kaylee, for being here as well. I just wanted to take a moment and just say also the citizen speaker portion, Bridget and Kaylee, I know you may or may not know this, it's always an important piece of our meeting to hear from residents, to hear from citizens. It's not a time where there's a lot of back and forth with the council, and I just want you to know that that doesn't denote that we're not listening to our citizen speakers and really appreciating your time and your words. And I also wanted to just mention, as Bridget and Kaylee mentioned, that they're the co-founders of the Green Club at Beverly High School. Thank you for that leadership. That we also do have, I see Dean Berg and Wayne Miller here from Green Beverly, and so just wanted to thank them for being here as well. I also wanted to just, before we open our posted public hearing, quickly acknowledge a few other folks in the room with us. Mayor Mike Cahill is here with us. Thank you, Mayor Cahill, for being here, as well as our Sustainability Director, Irina Keefe, is here with us tonight. Thank you, Ms. Keefe, for being here. And Finance Director Brian Ailes is here with us. Thank you, Mr. Ailes. And I think we'll be hearing from Mr. Ailes shortly when I open this public hearing. So with that, it is 7:30, so I will open our posted public hearing on Order 191. This is a loan authorization order. Ms. Kent.
Order number 191, City of Beverly ordered the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Monday, September 19th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. Ordered that the city appropriates the sum of $1 million to pay costs of making drainage improvements, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said sum under General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), or any other enabling authority, and that the mayor is authorized to take other action necessary to carry out the project. The mayor is authorized to apply for, accept, and expend any and all grants that may be available to the city to defray costs of this project. The amount authorized to borrow by this order shall be reduced to the extent of any such grants received by the city on account of this project. And this was in the newspaper on September 9th.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kent. And I do want to mention members of the public who may be interested in speaking in this public hearing. There is a sheet to sign up over here in front of Ms. Kent. You're welcome to come up at any time and add your name. And we will go to members of the public as we move through the public hearing. I'll begin, though, by inviting our City Finance Director, Mr. Brian Ailes, to open things up and share with us about this order.
Sure.
Thanks, Mr.
Good
Ailes.
evening. Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, councilors. The request before you this evening from the mayor is, as Ms. Kent noted, it's a loan authorization which would allow the city to begin doing work related to the North Beverly Brook. For many of you that are aware, the North Beverly Brook is one of the main drainage systems within the city for the stormwater runoff. And as you kind of recollect, in the Herrick-Cabot Street intersection area, there is a culvert which begins at the edge of the Beverly High School property line and runs completely under Cabot Street, under the Balch Playground, under the railroad tracks, under the Cummings Center, and empties into the Lower Shoe Pond. This work would enable us to effectively clean out those culverts, thus allowing more rapid, more voluminous flow through those culverts, ultimately helping the drainage system for everything effectively upgrade from that drainage, which runs all the way up to North Beverly, obviously, by its name. So the loan authorization would effectively allow us to do the work. We don't feel that we would necessarily incur all $1 million before the end of the fiscal year, but this authorization would allow us to at least enter into a contract. It would be our intent to ultimately, ideally, not borrow for this project and pay it down via certified fund balance within the Sewer Enterprise Fund, or we can also pull some funds back from SESD to bolster the Sewer Enterprise Fund and ultimately pay down some of the deficit that may exist and ultimately avoid borrowing any funds from for this project. So that's kind of it in an overview, but we're happy to get into any specific details if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ailes. And I do want to also make mention that the City Council budget analyst, Mr. Jerry Perry, is not here with us this evening because he is homesick, and so we hope he recovers quickly. I believe councilors did have a chance to hear from Mr. Perry on this matter, but I will go to questions from councilors for Mr. Ailes. And Councilor Rotundo, I see your hand.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Ailes, in regards to the loan order, I know we've done a couple of them with the turf field as well as the fire truck. Is this something similar that where we, if we are to appropriate it as a council and allow you to start the work, would it be your intent next year or sometime when the fund balances are certified to not actually go along with the loan order and just pay for it out of free cash or, as you said, some of the reserve funds that we have there?
Yeah, that's correct, Councilor Rotundo. Currently, we had a certified fund balance at the end of fiscal 21, which is the last time we were certified. We haven't been certified yet for the end of FY22. We had a enterprise fund balance, which is similar to free cash, although it sits just with the enterprise fund, of 1.4 million. Of that, we additionally had a positive revenue variance during operations of FY22 of about 330,000. However, we did use 800,000 of that in the budget process to keep rates down for FY23 for the users. So if you kind of do the math there on the back of the envelope as I did, that leaves just about 950,000 that I would expect in that range to be certified in terms of a fund balance. We also have some amounts over at SESD that we're working with the treasurer over there as she certifies her fund balances. We'll be able to pull some of that back and bolster that fund balance, and that ultimately would be the first option for a source to pay down this loan authorization.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Councilor Rotundo. Councilor Feldman.
Thank you. I had two questions. One was, do we know the full scope of the price tag of the work total when it comes to this project and these improvements? Because I know there was a commitment from the state as well. So I just was wondering what the overall budget for this is, and as question one.
Yeah, so there's a couple different pieces that go together with this. I mean, the Shoe Pond is a major drainage area for the city. We've been working with the state and FEMA, in fact, to try to deal with some flood mitigation on the Shoe property itself, tidal gates, things of that nature. That work is ongoing in terms of coordinating with the state and the engineering department. This is specific just to brook cleaning and the culvert cleaning. The original discussions we had with engineering when they brought this to my attention was that they felt about 3/4 of this would go to just cleaning the culvert, and then any residual funds that are available, they would begin to also look at some brook cleanage and brush clearing and things of that nature, maybe further on up the line, which is something they typically do on a regular basis, but this would allow them to do more in a shorter period of time.
And my second question was, I know we had gotten an update from the Cummings Center that they had done a significant amount of work in regards to their flooding and the culvert part that's underneath their property. I'm just wondering how the work that they do, where the line kind of stops in terms of what the city is responsible and what the Cumming Center is responsible for in terms of property, and where with the water flow, how that works. Because I know they just tore up like the whole parking lot in August and redid the grading.
Are you familiar with that aspect of the project, or no? I don't want to put you on the spot. Obviously,
It's okay if you don't know.
I don't have an exact answer,
Yeah.
but obviously, the storm runoff is the city's responsibility, regardless of where it may go. We do have easements through the Cummings property, but the infrastructure and the culverts still remain part of city infrastructure. So they may have done some work to help mitigate the impact to their specific property, maybe some of the low-lying areas of their property that, I don't know if you recall, back probably 10 years ago or so, there was a major flood on their property, and they had to do a ton of rehabilitation from water infiltrating a lot of the buildings. That may be part of it. I'm very happy to talk with Eric, our city engineer, Mr. Barber, as well as Mr. Collins in the morning, and get you a more thorough answer, if that would help.
That would be great. I have the Cumming Center update from them. We were sent that of
Okay.
what the work that they did, and I just wasn't sure where their work ended and our work kind of began, based on their update, because I watched it all happening, and because I worked
Yeah, we can
looking at it,
reconcile
so-
that for you
Okay.
and get back to you tomorrow or a little later in the week.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Councillor Feldman. Other questions? Councillor Rand?
Thank you. In the past, we've had some pretty big discussions about the funds over at SESD and pulling them back. I'm just curious if you've identified the sort of project fund balance that would be coming out of potentially from SESD.
That's the work I'm as we sit here tonight, working with Ms. Hetrick over at SESD, who's my counterpart over there. They haven't closed out their audit, so they haven't closed out their books, so they don't have a final figure for us. However, I can tell you that historically, we've maintained a sufficient enough balance over there for them to deal with any system-wide projects that we might need to be assessed for. But in the past, we have, in 2014, we pulled back $300,000. In 2015, we pulled back $200,000. In 2016, we pulled back $250,000. 2017, we pulled back $500,000. So you can see that's probably the level that we're looking at. So from 2017, we didn't pull any money back until 2021. And we pulled back another $400,000 in 2021, and so now for 2 years we haven't pulled any back. So I'm expecting that balance to have grown a bit since the last time we looked at it. So there'll be sufficient funds to pull back a fair amount. Probably $500,000 range would be a target that I have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one follow-up, and can you talk a little bit, just so that I'm really clear on it, the money that gets pulled back from there has to be used on sewer drainage projects, correct?
Yes. So think of where it originates from, right? It originates from the ratepayers who pay the sewer rate, and then we get assessed from South Essex Sewerage District to pay them an annual assessment amount. It goes over to them, they manage it, and at the end of the year, if they have any turnbacks, that's the balance that we're talking about, is like a kind of their free cash balance, which then can be returned back to the member communities. But at the end of the day, it's still ratepayer money for sewer work, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rand. Councillors, other questions or comments? Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. My questions may be more for the engineering department, so unfortunately, if there's nobody here, they may not be able to be answered tonight. But was curious about sort of the scope of this project and how it relates to work that's been done before, work that we heard a lot about in May and June needing to be done at some point, and sort of the overall plan that this fits within. So first, I had a question that's a little more financial. It sounds like this is a replication of work that was done in 2009, 2010. It's the same kind of scope of work.
Yeah.
Do we know how much that cost and what kind of timeline that took to do that
I
project?
don't know that off the top of my head. Do you?
Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Mayor.
sorry to interrupt, but I just want to give you folks a little bit of an update. Commissioner Collins was to be here. I just was texting with him. He'll be along shortly. If there's anything that you feel you need an answer to, I mean, you can manage your own meeting procedurally, but he'll be here shortly, but if you need to move along, and I don't know, maybe you want to just continue and come back, but he'll be here in the building shortly. And I think, to your question, Counselor, trying to compare, what this particular project may cost in 2022 versus what the city paid then. Commissioner Collins was commissioner then. He may have it in his head. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Councilor Bone, are there other questions that you had that, hearing that Commissioner Collins will be coming, I don't know if you had others that Mr. Ailes might be able to address?
Yeah, so I may hold if we can ask some questions later on. I think the only other question, let me see, that I had was whether there are, potential use of ARPA funds or general fund monies for this work, and in particular for sort of that broader scope. You mentioned maybe a quarter of the funding could be for other impacted neighborhoods along that brook and cleanup of the brook in various
Yeah, I
points.
mean, the option is on the table, is an option. It's not my preference. I feel that this is sewer-related work, and therefore the ratepayers for the sewer work should pay the bill for this, rather than assessing the overall tax base of all property owners. It's specific to those that use the sewer. So that's ideally where it will come from, and I think with the resources we have, we very likely will be able to address this all without any type of loan authorization. But the second, probably Plan B, would be possibly to go to free cash for any residual that we're not able to handle with the fund balance.
Thank you.
Is that Councilor? Councilors, any other questions or comments at this time? I know we have Commissioner Collins on the way. I think given that, I don't see other questions from the council at this time. We do have a member of the public signed up to speak, so I will move to members of the public with the additional piece of information that if there are other members of the public who would like to sign up to speak, it's not too late, so I will leave this here. But I will ask Mr. Richard Tabbitt is signed up, so I'll invite you to the podium.
Can I wait till Commissioner Collins comes in? Is that a question? I have a specific question about the book, but I actually have two questions, two issues.
You may wait, and I can do something different here. Just if it's helpful to you, your questions would come to the council, but not directly to Commissioner Collins, then he can cover it. If you would like to. And then it seems like we can make sure that those questions also get asked to Commissioner Collins if you're here to hear the answers.
My name is Richard Tabbitt, 57 Sonning Road, Beverly, Mass. I actually came to talk about the three-story building thing, but I didn't realize you'd be talking about the Brook project. I live right on North Beverly Brook. And my question for Commissioner Collins is, when they clean the brooks and they do the brush, will they do the brush and the culvert on Sonning Road? Because they actually pile up debris in my yard from the brook. I'm at the edge of the culvert. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tabbitt. And I made note of your question, so we can try to get that answer for you. Councilors, at this point, given that I think we do have some questions, I know Councilor Bowen does, that Commissioner Collins could likely help us with, I would entertain a motion to recess this public hearing just to 8:05. We'll do some other business in the meantime, and we can pick this back up. Is there a motion to recess this to 8:05?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. So we will recess that public hearing on Order 191 to 8:05 and pick it up at that time. And Ms. Kent, in the meantime, let's go to acceptance of minutes from previous meetings. We have two sets of meeting minutes to approve tonight. There is a special city council meeting from September 8th, 2022, and a regular city council meeting September 12th, 2022. So two sets of minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0, and those two sets of minutes are approved. And thank you to Ms. Dixon, our assistant clerk, for her excellent minute-taking skills. Let's go to communications from His Honor the Mayor, please, Ms. Kent.
Order number 235, Dear Honorable City Council, I hereby reappoint, subject to your review and recommendation, Mr. Mark Flagg, 36 Hale Street, to serve as trustee of the David Lynch Park Public Park Fund. His term is to be effective from September 30th, 2022 until September 30th, 2025. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to Committee on Public Services.
Order number 236. Dear Honorable City Council, I hereby reappoint, subject to your review and recommendation, Mr. Robert Hobbs, 245 Essex Street, Apartment 12, Beverly, to serve on the Council on Aging. His term to be effective until June 30th, 2025. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Public Services as well. Let's go to communications from other city officers and boards, please.
Order number 237, a letter from Councilor St. Hilaire proposing zoning ordinance amendments to limit new building projects in the city of Beverly to 3 stories.
Councilor St. Hilaire, this is your letter. Would you like to read it for the council?
I don't know that I have to read the whole thing, but maybe I could summarize.
Please.
So I just, dear honorable colleagues here, introducing some zoning ordinance amendments that are really aimed at reducing the height of new building projects to 3 stories. I think we'd all agree we've gone through a lot of growth over the last several years as a city. Like you, I'm hearing loud and clear from residents. They're concerned about traffic, lack of parking, crumbling roads and sidewalks, schools that are already bursting out of capacity, and the ability of our local police and fire to respond, especially with the Hall-Whitaker Bridge closing, it's really becoming a quality of life and public safety issue in my mind. 2 events this summer for me were the Hall-Whitaker Bridge closing, as I mentioned, also the announcement of the Family Dollar Store parcel being developed into a high-rise. And that, to me, really, convinced me that we needed to act and do something. So I'm introducing these to start a conversation. I understand this would require a public hearing and some discussion, which I welcome. And I just want to, make clear that, these amendments aren't aimed to stop any particular development that's underway. This would be for new projects. And also just say that, really, it's not really about limiting development, just a lot of these big scale projects I think have had the most significant impact, on our residents. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Ms. Kent, let's refer the Councilor's letter to the Committee on Legal Affairs, please.
Order number 238 from Sergeant Michael Henneberry from the Beverly Police Department. A request to add a handicap parking sign at 24 Myrtle Street and an additional location of 31 Grant Street.
Thank you. Please also refer that to the Subcommittee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 239 from President Flowers and Councilor Rotundo, Quarter 4 recap from the School Committee Subcommittee on Finance and Facilities for FY 2022.
Thank you very much. Councilor Rotundo, is there anything that you'd like to say about this order?
Nope, I think it says it in the letter clearly, and if the council chooses to read it, it's there for them to read.
Thank you, Councilor. I would entertain a motion to receive this and place it on file.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 8-0, and we will receive that and place it on file. And a thanks, I think, from Councilor Rotundo and myself to Jean Sherburne, the Beverly Schools Director of Finance and Business, who always is very helpful to us in preparing these summaries.
Order number 240 from the city clerk, an application for a fortune teller license for Timothy Regan of 5 Orange Street, Salem, for the Zodiac Tea Room at 5 Washington Street in Beverly.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 241 from the city clerk, a fortune teller license for Leanne Gordon at 12 Eustace Street in Revere for the Zodiac Tea Room at 5 Washington Street in Beverly.
And please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 242 from Councilor Bowen, a request to hold a meeting in the coming weeks on the preparation of underway for National Grid's Beverly Transmission Reliability Project construction.
Thank you. Councilor Bowen, this one's your letter. Is there anything that you'd like to say, or would you like to read the letter for the council?
Sure, I might just add the context. The letter is pretty quick, but essentially, since we've had the summer recess, the National Grid transmission line project has started doing the preparation activities. And while we do have the Citizens Advisory Committee being convened as part of those preparations, as they haven't gotten going yet, and we're seeing some of the pre-construction activities on the streets already, wanted to take a moment at the beginning of our fall session, post-summer, to check in, get some of those progress updates, and just make sure that we're, as a full council, sort of all on the same page about how we're going to be getting information through and alongside the Citizens Advisory Committee about the conditions that we imposed with the grant of location are being met ahead of any construction-related activities.
Thank you very much, Counselor, and we'll refer the Counselor's letter, Ms. Kent, to the Subcommittee on Public Services, please.
Order number 243.
Oh, sorry, communications, applications, and petitions, sorry. Forgot my line. But you boldly went ahead, which was great.
Yeah. Order number 243 from National Grid, a grant of location to install plastic gas main on Cabot Street between Bridge Street and Federal Street.
Thank you. We'll refer that to the Committee on Public Services to set a public hearing. That's it. That is indeed. So I will just take this moment to mention that the next on our agenda would be unfinished business from a previous meeting. And so listed there are two orders. They both pertain to the Charter Review Committee's report and work on our city charter. And I will just remind not only the council, but members of the public that we will be taking those orders up at a special meeting next Tuesday, the 27th at 7 p.m. The Charter Review Committee's report and the charter itself are the sole agenda items at that meeting, and our intention is to be able to wrap up the work that's been done on the city charter at that meeting. And that will allow us to honor the work done by the Charter Review Committee, fulfill our obligations under the charter to our city and our citizens, and also if we can take care of this piece of business, it will also mean that it will pave the way for us to begin ordinance review, which is also something prescribed for the council in years ending in 2 and 7. And this being a year ending in 2, we'll take that up. So those will be coming up for us. I would entertain a motion to take a 5-minute recess.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We'll be back at 8 p.m. A posted public hearing on Order 208 for 8 p.m. tonight. That is postponed, so councilors, we just need to set a new public hearing date for that meeting. So I would entertain a motion to set a public hearing on Order 208, which is an appropriation of $470,775 to be placed in a fund to pay for engineering and police detail costs associated with the National Grid 115 kV electric transmission cable project, to set that public hearing now for our October 3rd meeting at 7:45 p.m.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 8-0. And so for members of the public, we'll make sure to get that posted, but that public hearing on Order 208 will now be October 3rd at 7:45 p.m. Really should have talked more slowly. So we do have Commissioner Collins here with us. Commissioner, I recessed the public hearing by 1 more minute, so someone, you could slowly walk to the podium, that would be really great. Thank you. I guess maybe this is a good time for me just to mention that it's exciting that we have a seal living in the lower shoe pond. And just a shout out for Schubert the seal, who really has brought Beverly together in an exciting way. And
Listen to the news.
yeah. And since we're talking about culverts and brooks, Schubert did come in through a culvert, so, yeah.
He's the little Sebastian of Beverly.
That's very accurate, Counselor Feldman. For those who didn't get the Parks and Rec TV show reference, little Sebastian was a tiny horse who united Pawnee, Indiana, and we have Schubert. Thank you, Counselor Feldman.
Pretty accurate.
I think that brings us back to, we'll resume our public hearing on Order 191. This is the loan authorization for $1 million for maintenance work to be performed on a portion of the North Beverly Brook. Commissioner Collins, thank you for being here with us. I know some counselors had questions that I think you would be able to answer, but I didn't know if you had anything that you wanted to begin by sharing about the project.
No, this is, hopefully the first of many projects in this phase of our North Beverly Brook work. We had, over the decades, there have been a number of North Beverly Brook projects, and this is just the latest in this effort to try to bring some relief to some of the areas along the brook and the upper reaches, the middle reaches of the brook that have experienced some flooding, and actually some of the most extreme flooding is where you'd expect it to be down the lowest reaches. So this is step one of many.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Counselor Bowen, I know you had a question that was pending for Commissioner Collins, so we'll go to Counselor Bowen first, and then I'll go to other members of the council. Counselor Bowen.
Great, thank you. So my question was a bit about sort of where this fits in the past and present and future work, and how much we might be able to accomplish with $1 million authorization. And so the first question was just the context of the scope of work. It sounds like this is repeating periodic work that needs to be done every X number of years that was last done in 2010 or so. And so I was just wondering about how much it cost and how long it took then, not because costs haven't changed in over a decade, but just for context of like what this specific project
in the earlier project, which it was a multifaceted project. One component was cleaning the culverts underneath the shoe, and that project started in 2008 and finished in 2010, and one of the last things to be completed was the culvert cleaning, and that was by design. That was a very difficult effort because the culverts hadn't been cleaned in probably 50+ years, and since the last cleaning, when they were cleaned before by United Shoe, when they were still in business, the only parts that were enclosed was underneath what we call the 100 building and a little bit under the parking lot and the 800 building, but the rest of it was all open at that time. When Cummings Properties bought the property in the 90s, they covered over the rest of it. So it was actually in their parking lot. It was all open three-sided culvert with no top on it. And same thing on East Drive by the railroad tracks. They had a little bridge that went over the culvert. So they closed it all in and made a lot more culvert for us to clean. And who knows what got pushed into there over the decades. snow plowing or whatever. So when we cleaned it, we were pulling out, dozens of truck tires, fiberglass shower enclosure, mattresses, all kinds of things that were in there for decades. So and it was a very difficult job. Adding to the complication, the subcontractor that was hired was from Texas, didn't really understand the concept of water freezing. It was supposed to be done before winter came. They also didn't understand a lot of things about working. And so the job took several months longer than it should have. Took about 6 months to complete, should have been done in about 2 months. And so the job carried on into winter, which made things exponentially more difficult. Ultimately, the job was successful. They persevered through, for what for them was extremely cold conditions, what for us we call winter. And they did a good job cleaning it. And so it got cleaned, probably the best it's ever been cleaned in its history. But it was it took a great effort on their part. It ended up with the contractor filing a claim because they went months over their time limit. So the cost of it wasn't as accurate a reflection of the work as it should be. But, and it's really hard to pull out really what it cost. But it was over 500, less than 800, somewhere in that range. Things are a lot more expensive nowadays. We also are hopeful that a more Northeast region contractor will pick up the job and be able to, using some different methods, be able to do a better job and do it much quicker, much more quickly, and much more efficiently. And so we worked, the first time we did it only at night by request of the Cumming Center. So we didn't take up the parking lot because the method they used entailed us using several parking spaces, cutting holes in the parking lot, and it was pretty intrusive. When we put things back together in 08 and through 10, we actually put in large manhole covers, 4-foot square manhole covers, so now we don't have to cut holes in their parking lot, we just lift the covers off, making this effort a lot easier. We also are confident we're not going to have to pull out any car tires or shower enclosures this time, so we think it'll be a much more straightforward, get a more capable local contractor from New England, and we're optimistic this will be a much easier effort this time.
Thank you. Can I ask another quick question? Thanks. So it's great to hear that there were some lessons learned from that project that will make this one easier to do and cost effective. And it sounds like it's the right time, and that the timeline would potentially allow for work to be done before the winter this year. Is that the general timeline we're looking at?
Yeah, we had our goal was to be cleaning it in August when the rainwater is at its lowest. So we're not going to hit that goal, but we'll still be able to clean it. As we've noticed, there's not a whole lot of rain yet, so if we can get out to bid soon, we should be okay.
And I think just one more. So, well, maybe it's two. For just on that timeline, are all the permits and the Conservation Commission and everything lined up?
Yeah, surprise. It's a little bit odd that we had to go through a whole bunch of permitting hoops, seeing as we're just cleaning a culvert underground, but we did, and all the permits are in place. So there's a combination of state, local, and federal permits that we were required to get, but we got them all.
Excellent. Then the final question is just, if there is space within this $1 million envelope, which it sounds like there may well be if things go according to plan, which they may or may not, can we think about, if not explicitly in this order, at least sort of in this conversation, talking about what is the next piece that would happen? Because as you mentioned, this is sort of the first in multiple projects in this phase, and particularly for the neighbors who were here multiple times in May and June at our meetings, and some of the work that we saw around stormwater management more generally and some of the improvements the engineering department is looking to make, sort of how much can this money buy us towards some of that work?
What we hope to accomplish with this is to get this culvert clean, which will help everybody. It'll help the people in Jordan, it'll help the Cummings Center. We hope to learn a little bit more, get some more detailed inspections underneath the Cummings Center buildings. There were some obstacles that are under there that are part of the infrastructure of the Cummings properties that we hope to be able to work with them to maybe relocate or streamline them somehow hydraulically, to try to provide just measurable increases in capacity in certain sections of the culvert. We're really looking at the culvert foot by foot and seeing what we can do on each section. So that's some really just rudimentary stuff. We also are working with one of our engineering firms to try to take some of this money and perform some analysis work of the entire watershed. We know the watershed really well. When we did the project in '08, we had done a detailed analysis and modeled the entire watershed, all the way from North Beverly, from the other side of Michael and Berrywood, all the way down to its confluence with the Bass River. So we know the watershed very well, and a lot of the questions that are easy questions to answer have been answered. That being said, we're hoping to take whatever remaining funds and work with our engineering, the engineering firm that we've brought on for this project to try to perform another and more thorough analysis of the entire watershed and see what opportunities we have throughout the entire watershed to make changes. And some of these are, we know there's no magic bullet here because we looked at that in '08 and through the design of the '08 project. But we're going to revisit every assumption and try to look and look to the future and see some of the things that might make a difference. Would be like as part of our MS4 program, the entire North Beverly Plaza, not to pick them out, not to pick on them or anything like that, but that'd be an example of if there's any future development on that site, we would try to work with that property owner and say, look, this entire site used to be water, and now it's pavement and roof. So what can we do to try to lessen the impact from that property? It's a significant amount of impervious surface there that is, they're not the problem, but it's part of, it's part of the legacy of what we've been left with. They're not the problem any more than houses that shouldn't have been built too close to a wetland are a problem. But this is what we have. This is the situation we've been dealt, and we try to make it better. And as we discussed with some of the neighbors recently, we try to also look internally to see what can we do. And if you look at the high school property, when we renovated that in 10, there's actually less impervious surface on the property now than there was then. When we renovated the middle school, we put 2 gigantic tanks under the parking lots of the middle school, and we retain our stormwater there, and there's literally a 1-inch hole that lets the water out of that tank. So we're actually slowing the water down on the middle school property dramatically compared to what it was before. So this isn't stuff that we're just imposing on all of our commercial properties throughout the watershed or the city. It's stuff that we look to do too. We know we're not immune from it as well. So we're looking at every aspect of the watershed, and we think that is where the remainder of this loan authorization will go towards, is to try to further that study of the watershed and try to bring us to what can we do. How can we slow the water down upstream, and how can we increase the capacity downstream?
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Crowley.
So a quick question on talking about the loan order, and you were talking about, so we were talking to Mr. Ailes a little bit earlier, if we don't go to the loan order and we and we get the funding through other resources and not have to go there, where else would, so for the person looking at the, further opportunities and stuff for the Brook area, where would that come from if we don't have to use the loan order?
Are you saying if we If we, I'm trying to understand the question.
So he says-
If the money became available and we could reallocate this money, or?
So he was explaining to us that the loan order is basically just being put in place so that we can get everything working along here.
can sign the
And there may be
document,
some
yeah.
other monies from other places towards we don't have to invoke the loan order.
Yeah, there's a fairly common strategy that
Right.
Mr. Ailes employs that, you know,
So the
we need to
que-
get the project moving. The council gives us authorization to borrow the money, but we often don't end up borrowing the money, because we try to resolve that through the fund balance on hand or other means.
Right, so the question is then, if that's the case, through other fund balances and stuff like that, you had talked about, as far as your firm, looking at other potential opportunities to make the brook better or the whole watershed better, where would that money be coming from? If it's not coming out of the $1 million?
Come from
Okay.
It would come for a future loan authorization. You know, if there was any projects, we still think that the engineering effort that we'd undertake here is more of a study. If the study identifies future projects, we would, unless we had the money on hand to design the future project, we'd have to come back to the council, discuss it with you, and secure funding for both the engineering and the construction of whatever future projects get outlined here. We hope that one way or another, we'll get this study completed, and that will hopefully bear out some projects that we can tackle and that can bring some relief.
Look forward to it.
Thank you very much, Counselor. Counselors, any other questions for Commissioner Collins? Counselor Rand.
Thank you so much. I'm just wondering how closely you work with the sustainability director on some of these issues, maybe this project in particular, actually. Let's keep it to the public hearing, I guess.
I haven't personally. I think what the sustainability director's charge is already baked into what we do. MS4 is really the heart of a sustainability program. So I don't think in this case, you know, we're the lead on this, and the approach we take is we believe the most sustainable approach. Is, you know, we believe that our MS4 program is really leading the way for other communities setting the example for other communities to follow. Because I think we've got the most robust and well-developed MS4 program, and we're working the most with our contractors and landowners more than anyone else. So I think there's a lot that other people can learn from us, that I hope that in this case here, our sustainability director will be able to take what is learned and what we are doing here and bring it to other communities so we can help other people. So I don't think where this is a purely, really an engineering-driven project, it's not necessarily the perfect wheelhouse of the sustainability director, but the concepts are directly aligned with all of the city's missions and goals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Rand. Counselor Bowen, do I see your hand?
Thank you. Yes, just the question from Counselor Carly sort of prompted some thinking for me about, again, sort of the use of these different types of funding. And it sounds like if we were to authorize $750,000 instead of $1 million, that would be sufficient to start contracting on the actual culvert work, and that we already have an engineering firm working on studies.
No. The full authorization will allow us to pursue the cleaning work and the engineering study, future engineering study. So without the full authorization, that study would have to somehow be funded by another means.
Counselor Sweeney.
Counselor Brown, if you'd like to ask a follow-up, please feel free.
A little bit, but in any order.
Counselor Bowen, and then Counselor Sweeney, and we'll just be mindful that we don't retread ground that we've been on.
Thanks. So that was my question. If that follow-on work could be funded by other means, many of which have been discussed tonight, I find it challenging to vote for these orders sort of out of the usual budget process when they are for kind of ongoing work that's been planned. So you had mentioned we are already working with an engineering firm on some of this work, and as money becomes available, are looking to do additional studies with them. To me, that sounded like as that additional money becomes available from the SESD or from our enterprise funds, that absolutely should be the first use of it. But I didn't quite hear the reason
No, if I could
needs a
clarify,
larger loan authorization.
we've been working on a proposal with our engineering firm for the future study, for the study that we'd like to embark on. We already funded the design work of this project, the cleaning project. We've already funded the permitting effort. That's complete. And so this would allow us to go to construction on this project. It would also allow us to enter into a future agreement that we have not entered into yet with the engineering firm to look at the design concept. And usually out of these studies comes a number of suggestions for future projects that are worth investigating further to see if any of them could be constructed. So this is typically how we do it. This is not necessarily, none of this is programmed. We have to look to these studies and try to pick out things that are viable projects that could be permitted in this environment, could be funded, and have a measure of affordability. Because there are certainly ideas, like, sure, we could start at the high school and just put a new culvert to the ocean that's 20 by 20, but it would be, $20, $30 million, and that's just not practical, and it would be very unlikely to be permitted as well by the various agencies. So we need to come up with projects that are viable. So what we'd be coming back with is a study that we could talk about, and hopefully out of that, we would have some projects that we would pursue, but those were, as with any large capital project, they're going to be expensive. Nothing we do from this point on is going to be less than $1 million in all likelihood. So we'd have to come back to secure the funding for future projects at a later date.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Sweeney.
I'm actually all set. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Any final questions for Commissioner Collins? I guess I'll just ask Commissioner, it sounds like we had a resident here earlier who was asking you about Sonning Road and the culvert there. I just want to clarify, it sounds like the work that we would hope to do would ultimately benefit sort of this entire watershed area and the flow for all neighborhoods.
And I did speak to him off to the side, so.
Thank you.
Got his questions answered.
Thank you. Let's then close this public hearing and refer that back to Finance and Property, and we will be able to take some action on that this evening. That brings us to our break for committee work. So I would entertain a motion to take a brief break for some committee work.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Tonight we will have Finance and Property take a turn on the bench in the hallway. Councillor St. Hilaire will chair that in the absence of Councillor Houseman. We will have Legal Affairs in the committee room, and Public Services will have you all stay here in chambers on BevCam. And for all the committees, it feels like we can probably do tonight's committee work fairly briefly. If there are more substantive issues, we'll work on scheduling those for committee meetings on our subcommittee nights, which are our off weeks. Thank you.
Nice note.
It's so aggressive. All right, I guess.
Yep.
I'd like to call to order this subcommittee meeting of Public Services. And we have all three members present of the Public Services Committee. And the first order we are going to be looking at is order number 20.
Kim can't hear us.
Oh. Excuse me.
Yeah, there's something
I got it. He said so. I don't exist. It's cool. I enjoy. All right, more on camera. Okay. So we are taking up order number 205, which was referred to the matter regarding a petition from National Grid, Plan 305-86010, Weber Avenue to install underground electrical conduits. And this came up at our subcommittee meeting, was it just that last
week? Yes.
And we had some questions about this order, and I believe we have a representative from National Grid here to maybe explain more. And would you be willing to come to the microphone and answer any questions? Yes, please. If you could just introduce yourself, that would be greatly appreciated.
Sabita Mahabir, representing National Grid, 44 River Street, Beverly, Massachusetts.
Thank you so much. I will open this up to questions from my fellow counselors to start. Did we have specific questions? I know we did. But.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. So my question was mainly for all of these approvals as they come through, we talk about sort of what is the purpose and the benefit of the work, and then understand the inconvenience that comes along with it is worth that purpose. And for the other orders that we had previously, it was clear what the work was for. For this one, I just didn't have a clear sense of how it benefits the city, what the work is going to accomplish, and then if and how it relates to some of the other work that has happened in that neighborhood or is going to happen in that neighborhood.
Okay, this particular petition is to provide service for the regulator going at that location. They have not done the digging yet for the conduits and so forth. It's basically a modernization of what is already existing at that location so that they can remotely regulate the pressure. So they need the electricity in order to do that.
So if I understand correctly, this is for electrical regulation of gas, of the gas?
It's to power a remote regulator or remote access for them to manage the regulator.
Which is regulating
Gas.
gas?
Yes.
Okay. And it is an existing gas line?
It's an existing regulator, but presently it's manually operated.
Got it. Okay. Do we have any?
No, so we're basically upgrading it from manual to
On remote, yes.
a remote, makes it easier. Okay.
Yes.
Nope. That makes sense.
Yeah,
It does.
that's really helpful. And I think the only other question was just, because I think there has been gas work there previously, and obviously the electric transmission line work that's happening is not underway yet. But was just curious about sort of the timing of the different projects and how to minimize the impact on those neighbors and how that's being considered in the timing.
My understanding when speaking to somebody from the gas side about this was, yes, there was some modernization done on the street. To what exact extent, I'm unfamiliar with. But for this particular regulator at this particular location on the street, nothing yet has been done to put in the electric part of it yet. As for a timeline, I don't know. Do you have a contact with the gas side?
I don't believe we do.
I'm good.
We don't.
Other than the government relations team that communicates with us on both.
Okay.
So. And I guess that's my, we can provide feedback in general. It sounds like this one is lined up and ready to go and a necessary improvement to the infrastructure so that our gas lines are pressurized correctly, which sounds important. But just, understanding the impact on neighbors of repeated projects, I think it's part of our role to help provide that feedback back and ensure that that's factored into how projects are planned.
From speaking to them, my understanding is this will be done and finished from the gas side before the electric it goes in.
Which I think the neighbors will appreciate not having multiple things happening at once in some ways. However, having the street closed off repeatedly over many months because projects come along separately is a different kind of inconvenience, so.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
I think that clears it up.
No, I make a motion to approve.
So, okay, having considered said matter, do we recommend the petition be granted?
I do, yes.
You have a motion?
I make a
Okay,
motion.
a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's that one. Okay. Order number 217, to whom was referred the matter regarding the reappointments of Ms. Joyce Frisello and Ms. Kathy Doan to the David Lynch Public Parks Fund. We had discussed this previously, that there was a 7-day holding period.
Yep.
So reappointment. I did receive the contact information for both of these reappointees. I did not want to share that offline until we spoke about this together. If we want to reach out and discuss anything with them, we can. We can set up a meeting. We also have another one coming up. So that being said, for here and now, in this reappointment of these two individuals to this the Public Parks Fund, do I have a motion on these specific reappointments?
Well, I motion to approve these two, but they've done quite well.
Okay.
I know of them. And with the David Lynch and within everything that's going on with that program, so stuff down there goes. Yeah, this is awesome, and that they're continuing to serve in that capacity. I see no reason to not approve them. So I make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I would just add, I think being able to ask some of those questions as we talked about last week about just what, how the work is going, and take that opportunity. I agree, we're lucky that people are willing to continue to serve, so don't want to hold up reappointments for people who are already serving, but would love to be able to follow up with them either ahead of that next appointment being processed or
Great.
offline, to be able to hear more about what they're doing.
Right, and this does not, reappointing them does not preclude us from ever doing that. So that's, I'm happy to.
Oh, and that group would be more than willing if we want to ask them specifically to come in and a representative from them. They want to tout what's going on
yeah.
and what's happening and stuff like that, which they do quite a bit as it is now, so,
I think that would be helpful for all of us. So I will
at some point.
get everyone the information. Or through the clerk of committees possibly. Okay, so you got that? Okay, we did. All right, we have order number 242. To whom was referred the matter regarding request to hold a meeting in the coming weeks on the preparations underway for National Grid's Beverly Transmission Reliability Project construction. So, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. This was being set up to start to streamline the discussion in terms of information and process. Do we have a date or time that the task, the
Citizens Advisory.
Citizens Advisory Committee is meeting yet? Because I know that we don't want to, I don't want to undermine their work when they're most directly impacted. So I was just wondering if anyone had any update or input on their timeline.
Yes, they had intended to have a meeting tomorrow. That is not going to happen tomorrow. And so they are now looking to reschedule a time that works for all of the, or a quorum of the Citizens Advisory Committee. And agree, I did not want to file this to preempt their work, but really to complement it and just give us a quick check-in on the progress overall and which things are going to be in front of that Citizens Advisory Committee for their feedback versus which things are just going to come to us as notifications that, yes, this condition has been met, and that's being filed and, you know, great, and which things are going to solely flow to us through the Citizens Advisory Committee. Because I felt like that wasn't clarified in the final days of processing the grant of location. And they're going to take some time to get up and running. So making sure we have an opportunity to hear from National Grid and or Public Services about what they're finding in the couple of weeks of road closures and construction they've already conducted, how conversations are going with city
I think they've
departments.
already just done some spots, so not a whole lot as far as in the road closure.
Yeah, so they notified us as a council a couple of weeks ago of a planned schedule of activities that was basically one day at each of the manhole covers. They've only completed one and it took 9 days and it shut down Broadway for at least one of those fully. So the scope of work as it was described as those quick tests is not how it has played out so far. And so making sure that if they're doing several days worth of digging, that there's rodent mitigation included and things like that, which it sounds like is actually happening, but since we haven't had that in communication to the full council, I think it's worth asking those questions. So if there is a time that works for them to provide those updates in a meeting, I think, before the Citizens Advisory Committee is up and running,
For
that's
National
valuable.
Grid to come in and provide an update.
Yeah, or if our public services team can. I also think if we just send them some questions to respond to in a written form, that would also
Maybe we can
achieve
provide
what
a
I'm trying
report.
to get at.
I think that
I
would be,
think maybe with this request, maybe we can bring it to the full council to submit their questions regarding updates to National Grid to Ms. Dixon possibly, or Ms. Kent, or me, or directly to.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if our office is, I'm not sure if our office is providing services to the new subcommittee. Sorry, I don't remember the name.
Citizens Advisory.
So I don't know
Okay.
if we
Oh,
would, if,
right.
you know, if the questions would go through them through to National Grid, or
So I believe these can be our questions for National Grid to provide an update. So this would strictly be for the city councilors to have questions to National Grid in a streamlined.
wasn't the committee the
Fashion.
point of that?
The Citizens
I
Advisory.
think I'm just getting confused about our
Yeah.
role, so I don't want to get in the middle of something that I'm not supposed to do in the middle of.
Right. They are not fully up and running, and I think what Councilor Bowen's request is that since National Grid is up and running in part, but prior to the organization of the citizens, we just want to make sure nothing falls through the cracks in the coming week or so, and it sounds like there are. We have
You do have
a question?
non-committee member,
Yes.
but a.
Not a question. Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to say, your line of thinking about having counselors submit questions and then pass those on, I think, if I'm recalling correctly, there was a similar thing that happened with legal affairs, and they, if you wanted to do it this way, I think you could take a motion for your subcommittee to authorize you to receive questions from the council and communicate them to National Grid and then report the answers back. And so you could do it that way, and the subcommittee could authorize you as chair to be that conduit.
Perfect.
if you wanted to do it that way.
That makes sense. I would then, I guess, entertain a motion for the subcommittee to appoint me as a liaison to National Grid as the chair of the Public Services Committee to formalize a report of some sort for National Grid to make an update.
So moved for,
Second.
for an interim report until everything gets up and running.
Yeah, good. And I would also, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So I would expect that based on the timeliness of the work and how I would like this work to be simply to make sure we are a stopgap in some ways. I don't want to overstep the Citizens Advisory Committee work while they're getting going, but in order to help them, I would think that I would appreciate if we could have, and I'll reiterate this to the full council, really questions and an update by the end of this week, because I think that anything later than that is kind of is moot at that point if they're trying to get themselves up and running in the same capacity in a week or so. So
Agreed.
that's my proposed timeline, looking at this.
And I think,
Sorry, I just missed if there was a vote. I think I heard a first and a second. Did I get the?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
all
thank
in
you.
favor, all
Thank you.
three
I
of us,
appreciate
yes.
it.
Yeah.
and I guess just from a process standpoint, hopefully kind of clarifying anything that's been happening over the summer and before they meet, will open up their agenda to focus on citizen input into the
Moving
actual
forward.
plan.
Yes, that is definitely the goal. Okay, so I'm not sure what to.
Yeah, so
mark
I think
this.
since you took a vote on appointing you as the contact, I think we still need a vote just like on the letter to receive it and put it.
Oh, okay, so, all right. And then will that then motion go back to, so that then will come back out to discussion later, okay. So I would entertain a motion for order number 242 to receive and place on file.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, call to order, committee of the whole at 8:45. All right. So then we have order number 243, to whom was referred the matter regarding National Grid requesting a grant of location to install plastic gas main on Cabot Street between Bridge and Federal, and this is to set a public hearing, correct? Yep. Okay. So we,
We don't have a time. We just have October 6th.
Oh, I do, hold on. This is for 10/3 at 8:15.
8:15? Entertain a motion to set a public hearing for October 3rd at 8:15 PM.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, that carries 3-0. Oh, I thought it was, I knew it was somewhere. I was like, I swear. Okay. All right, I think as of now that I will, first I call out committee of the whole. Okay. I'd like to move to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And motion to adjourn the Public Services Committee.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
you still?
Yeah, I think so.
Are you happy? Okay.
I'm happy.
It's like last week when you were waiting for me. All right, so I'll call the city council back to order. We're back from our subcommittee work, and we will go to reports from subcommittees.
Order number 191, the loan authorization for $1 million for maintenance work that needs to be performed to portions of the North Beverly Brook. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this request.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments on this one? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 240 for the Committee on Legal Affairs, whom refer the matter and application for a fortune teller license for Timothy Regan for the Zodiac Tea Room at 5 Washington Street, have considered said matter and recommend the license be granted.
Questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 241, the Committee on Legal Affairs, whom refer the matter regarding an application for a fortune teller license for Leanne Gordon for the Zodiac Tea Room at 5 Washington Street, have considered said matter and recommend the license be granted.
Questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 205, to the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding a petition from National Grid Plan 305-86010 Weber Ave to install underground electric conduits, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the petition be granted.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this one? Councilor Rand.
I'm just wondering if, since I couldn't attend, that if maybe the chair through you could just briefly summarize the information that was learned.
Thank you, Councilor Rand. Councilor Feldman, this was the order. National Grid wasn't able to provide all the information last week, and we did have someone here. If there's just a summary that you could provide.
I could provide a summary.
Thank you.
We did have a National Grid rep here that understood the the work better, and it is essentially a modernization of the current gas regulator. It is a manual flow regulator right now, and it is going to be, the electric needs to be installed to regulate the gas remotely, not manually like it currently is. So it is electric work for National Grid, but for the gas portion of it, which the electric didn't exist previously there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Feldman.
No problem.
So the question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 217, the Committee on Public Service, to whom refer the matter regarding reappointments for Joyce Frisello and Miss Kathy Doan to the David Lynch Public Parks Fund, have considered said matter and recommend the council approve these appointments.
Questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order for these reappointments. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0, and thank you to both of those members of the public for their service, continued service.
Order number 243, the Committee on Public Services, relating to the grant of location to install plastic gas main on Cabot Street between Bridge and Federal Street. Set a public hearing for October 3rd at 8:15 p.m.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order to set the public hearing for October 3rd at 8:15. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 8-0, so we will have that public hearing posted for October 3rd at 8:15.
Order number 242, the Committee on Public Service, to whom refer the matter regarding a request to hold a meeting in the coming weeks on the preparations underway for National Grid's Beverly Transmission Reliability Project construction. Have considered said matter and received and begged leave that receive and place on file, and authorizing the chair receive questions from National Grid to report back to the City Council.
Thank you, Ms. Kent. Councilor Feldman, is there anything that you wanted to just add as you're now authorized to receive our questions?
Yes, please.
Assuming we vote in favor.
Thank you. Yes. Through you, Madam President, we had decided that given the Citizens Advisory Committee is still forming and National Grid is preparing and doing some of the work. We wanted to act in our capacity to be able to assist that advisory committee while they're still trying to get their legs under them. And so we have decided that we would like to request an update from National Grid with some specific questions from us as a council. And I am asking if people do have specific questions or specific parts that they would like National Grid to report on the pre-work, to please have them to me by this Friday, so I can request that information from National Grid to have a report to that Citizens Advisory Committee about the work done to date in a timely manner.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feldman. And it sounds like, should we vote to act on this, then Councillor Feldman will be able to pass that information along to Councillors Rand and Houseman in their work with the Citizens Advisory Committee. Any other questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And so we will receive and place on file Councillor Bowen's letter. And councillors, as Councillor Feldman asked, if you do have questions for National Grid on the status of the project thus far, if we could send them to her by the end of this week. Thank you, Councillor Feldman, and thank you to Councillors Rand and Houseman, who are getting the Citizens Advisory Committee up and running. That is Tuesday. Remind people about Tuesday. Thank you. That is the end of our agenda. Good work, team. Councillor Rand pointed out a lot of sports language tonight. Go team. But a few announcements. As I had mentioned, we do have a special meeting on Tuesday the 27th, 7 p.m. We'll take care of the charter review 2 orders that are under unfinished business. Are there other announcements from the council? Councillor Rand.
Yes, thank you. Legal Affairs will be meeting also on Tuesday, September 27th at 6:30 p.m. in City Hall, mostly to focus on order number 237, which was Councillor St. Hilaire's amendment to zoning ordinances in our city.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rand and members of Legal Affairs. Thank you, Councillor St. Hilaire, for submitting that. Any other reminders or announcements? All right, well, with that, I would just say another thank you to Kim from BevCam for being here. Thanks to the members of the public and the mayor's team who joined us. Another thank you to the scouts and scout leaders from Troop 49. Congratulations to those Eagle Scouts. And a word of thanks. I know we mentioned Schubert the seal earlier when I was killing a little bit of time, but I do want to say a word of thanks to our animal control officers. Sincerely have done great work. Many members of the public in Beverly have been really interested in the seal and also concerned to make sure that the seal is doing well. And animal control has been working closely with NOAA and just making sure that we are, as a community, respecting this wild creature, and also that the seal is doing well. So I appreciate them, and I appreciate the members of the Beverly community who have taken such a concern for another member of the world around us, Schubert. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. 8-0. We are adjourned.